Stop Reading the News, a manifesto for a happier, calmer and wiser life by Rolf Dobelli. What if I told you that one of the most common daily habits in your life might actually be harming your mental health, wasting your time, and preventing you from achieving your true potential? In his provocative book, Stop Reading the News, a manifesto for a happier, calmer and wiser life, Rolf Dobelli makes a radical claim. The news is not only failing to make us informed citizens, it's actively making us miserable, anxious, and less capable of understanding the world. As someone who once consumed news obsessively, Dobelli conducted a life-changing experiment. He cut out all news for an entire decade. The results were so profound that he wrote this manifesto to share what he discovered. Today, we'll explore why this seemingly harmless habit might be more toxic than you think, and how breaking free from the news cycle could transform your life in ways you never imagined. Whether you're glued to your phone notifications or simply feeling overwhelmed by the constant flow of information, this book offers a controversial but compelling solution that might just change how you view the world. The news is toxic to your mental health. Dobelli argues that news consumption is fundamentally harmful to our psychological well-being. He compares news to sugar, sweet, addictive, easy to consume, but ultimately detrimental to our health. The constant stream of negative information triggers our brain's fight-or-flight response, flooding our bodies with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. What makes news particularly toxic is that it presents a distorted view of reality, focusing overwhelmingly on threats, dangers, and catastrophes. This negative bias creates what Dobelli calls a pessimism bias, a false impression that the world is more dangerous and chaotic than it actually is. When we consume news regularly, we're essentially programming our brains for anxiety and fear. Dobelli puts it, "News is to the mind what sugar is to the body, appetizing, easily digestible, and extremely harmful in the long run." News prevents deep thinking and understanding. One of Dobelli's most compelling arguments is that news consumption actively prevents us from developing deep understanding. News, by its very nature, is designed to be superficial and fragmented. It presents isolated events without context, connections, or underlying systems. This fragmented information creates what Dobelli calls the illusion of knowledge, the feeling that we understand complex issues because we've read headlines about them. In reality, news gives us only superficial facts without the depth needed for genuine understanding. Additionally, news disrupts our ability to engage in deep thinking. The constant interruptions from notifications and the habit of skimming rather than reading deeply rewires our brains for distraction. As Dobelli explains, news severely affects your ability to think deeply, to concentrate, to read books, and to connect with other people. News has a terrible return on investment. Dobelli approaches news consumption from a pragmatic perspective, examining its costs and benefits. He calculates that the average person spends 30 minutes daily consuming news, which amounts to 10,000 hours over a lifetime, roughly equivalent to the time it takes to master a skill or earn a PhD. What do we get in return for this significant investment? According to Dobelli, very little. He argues that news doesn't help us make better decisions in our personal lives, doesn't provide actionable information for our careers, doesn't actually make us better citizens, as it fails to explain complex issues, doesn't increase our happiness or well-being. In fact, Dobelli claims that after a decade without news, he couldn't identify a single important opportunity or risk he missed because of his news abstinence. As he puts it, news consumption is an artificially created need, not a natural one. The radical alternative. A news-free life. Dobelli doesn't just criticize news. He offers a radical alternative, eliminating news consumption entirely. He recommends a complete news diet, avoiding newspapers and magazines, news websites and apps, TV, and radio news updates on social media, even casual news conversations. Instead, he suggests replacing news with what he calls long-form content, books, in-depth articles, documentaries, and long-form podcasts that provide context, analysis, and deep understanding. Dobelli emphasizes that this isn't about being uninformed, it's about being differently informed. As he explains, "I'm not advocating ignorance, I'm advocating a different way of knowing the world." The rewards of a news-free life. The final section of the book explores the rewards of breaking the news habit. According to Dobelli, giving up news leads to increased happiness and reduced anxiety. Without the constant stream of negative information, your baseline mood improves significantly. Better thinking and decision-making. Your mind becomes capable of deeper focus and more nuanced understanding. More time for meaningful activities. The hours previously spent consuming news can be redirected to relationships, learning and personal growth. Greater perspective. You develop the ability to see long-term trends and systems rather than isolated events. Dobelli puts it succinctly. Not reading the news makes you not smarter, but wiser. The airplane crash phenomenon. Dobelli shares a powerful example about airplane crashes to illustrate how news distorts our perception of risk. He notes that when a plane crashes, it receives massive media coverage for days. This coverage creates the impression that flying is dangerous, leading some people to avoid air travel. However, the statistics show that flying is extraordinarily safe. You would need to fly daily for 19,000 years before experiencing a fatal crash. The far more dangerous activity is driving to the airport. Yet because car crashes are common, they rarely make the news. This example illustrates what Dobelli calls the news paradox. The more coverage an event receives, the less likely it is to affect your life, precisely because truly rare events are considered newsworthy, while common dangers are not. As Dobelli writes, the news focuses on the exceptional, not the rule. This gives us a fundamentally distorted view of the world. The novelist's experiment. Dobelli shares the story of a novelist friend who conducted an experiment. For 1 year, he kept a journal documenting all the important events in his personal and professional life. New projects, significant decisions, relationship developments, and opportunities. At the end of the year, he compared this journal with the news headlines he would have consumed during the same period. The result? There was virtually no overlap between the information that genuinely mattered to his life and the information provided by the news. This example illustrates Dobelli's point that news rarely provides us with information that's relevant to our actual lives and decisions. As he puts it, news is overwhelmingly irrelevant to your life, your career, and your happiness. It's consumption without purpose. Practical applications. The 30-day news detox challenge. Dobelli recommends starting with a complete 30-day break from all news sources. Delete news apps, unsubscribe from newsletters, and avoid news websites. After 30 days, assess how you feel, think, and spend your time. Create a news replacement strategy. Identify specific activities to replace your news consumption time. This might include reading books, having deeper conversations, learning a new skill, or simply being present with loved ones. Develop a relevance filter. For those who can't completely eliminate news, Dobelli suggests asking a simple question before consuming any information. Will this matter to me in a year? If not, it's probably not worth your attention. Cultivate alternative information sources. Seek out long-form content like books, in-depth articles, and documentaries that provide context and analysis rather than isolated facts. Practice slow news. If you must consume some news, do so weekly or monthly rather than daily. This allows you to see patterns and larger trends rather than reacting to isolated events. Stop reading the news challenges us to reconsider a habit that most of us take for granted. Dobelli's argument isn't just about avoiding negative information. It's about fundamentally changing how we understand and engage with the world around us. By breaking free from the news cycle, we create space for deeper thinking, more meaningful connections, and a more accurate understanding of reality. We trade the illusion of being informed for the possibility of genuine wisdom. As Dobelli writes in his concluding chapter, news is the junk food of the mind. It's easy to consume, immediately satisfying, but ultimately empty. A news-free life is not about ignorance. It's about choosing what deserves your limited attention. The choice is yours. Continue consuming information that leaves you anxious, distracted, and superficially informed, or embark on a different path, one that leads to a calmer mind, deeper understanding, and a wiser perspective on what truly matters in life. What might your life look like if you stopped consuming news for just 1 month? What could you accomplish with that reclaimed time and mental energy? The answers might surprise you. Key quotes for highlight moments. News is to the mind what sugar is to the body. Appetizing, easily digestible, and extremely harmful in the long run. News consumption is an artificially created need, not a natural one. News is overwhelmingly irrelevant to your life, your career, and your happiness. It's consumption without purpose. The news focuses on the exceptional, not the rule. This gives us a fundamentally distorted view of the world. News severely affects your ability to think deeply, to concentrate, to read books, and to connect with other people. I'm not advocating ignorance, I'm advocating a different way of knowing the world. Not reading the news makes you not smarter, but wiser. News is the junk food of the mind. It's easy to consume, immediately satisfying, but ultimately empty.